Please sum up in a nutshell, like bullet points or whatever, what you're bringing up for discussion.
Sure. I want a more thorough policy on the upholding of our immigration laws. I don't think there's an easy way to sum it up. Some of these things I brought forward will be a little easier to address and put forward. Some are more complex, but I certainly want open discussions on these issues. And these are not going to be all discussed or solved in one moment or one discussion or one study session. They might require several discussions, but I want to put together a framework of a more thorough policy.
Allan, do you explain how it is if I'm here legally, I'm arrested for DUI, the penalty for me is greater than someone who is here illegally?
No, I was referencing the difference between unlicensed driver and suspended drivers. The penalties are a little more thorough for someone who's here legally driving on a suspended than would be possibly for someone driving on an unlicensed driver. The penalties for DUI, and as far as I know, are the same, but the difference also is the follow-through. If someone's arrested for DUI, one agency may not screen that person if they're here illegally. They may be cited and released, just like if a U.S. citizen or a legal resident got a DUI, you would be taken into custody, go through the booking process, but then be released after a few hours with a written promise to appear in court.
If I'm here illegally, go through that process, there's no
In
guarantee.
Costa Mesa, and the ICE agent was present, you would be screened by the ICE agent.
Are you trying to institute immigration reform on a local level?
I'm trying to address this issue on a local level because it affects us here locally, and I want to bring attention to this issue because it has a big impact on us locally. Excuse me.
Mayor, last time you wanted to train police officers to enforce immigration law. There was a great deal of acrimony, and eventually it subsided because of the ICE agent agreement to screen people in custody. What did you learn from that experience, and how would you try to head off any same sort of hot debates this time around?
Well, one of the things that people said the first time that I brought this forward, quite frankly, was that I just took it to a council meeting and didn't provide time for input, which I disagree with. We could have taken it to a study session, but there was opportunity for public input. This time, I'm asking that these items be brought forward to a public study session for discussion by our council, and there will be opportunity for public input. I don't think we should be afraid to discuss these issues. These are real issues, these are important issues. I understand there are a lot of aspects to it. There are many things to consider, so I simply want to have good, open, public dialogue on this issue.
When you bring forth evidence that you said you had earlier that your police were not using legal ID when they stopped people for DUI.
I'm happy to address all questions, but there's a few people that didn't get a chance to ask questions yet.
How about the city's anti-solicitation laws? Would you ask the staff to take a look at that and to enforce those again? Or?
Well, I was simply bringing attention to the fact of the circumstances of what happened, that we have ordinances and laws in place, and we did enforce them, and I was just explaining some of the aftermath of what happened and that we are being sued, but I was also pointing to the fact that the people that were arrested, many of them were here illegally, and one did in fact have a warrant out for his arrest for a sex offense, and that's simply, those are facts I'm simply bringing to the public to make them aware of the circumstances. Yes, sir.
Allan, you said in 2009 there were about 2,000 people that were unlicensed drivers that were cited in Costa Mesa.
Almost.
If they cannot provide proof right then and there that they are a U.S. citizen, are you suggesting that they be taken into custody and screened?
I'm not necessarily suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that we have discussion about a more thorough policy. I have a lot of questions. I'm sure staff will have a lot of questions. And I believe through good open dialogue we can come forward with a stronger policy on some of these issues. And as I said before, some of these will be easier to address, some will be more difficult and will take more time, but I want to start some open dialogue on it.
You want to open dialogue on having your police officers detain people who cannot prove that they're U.S. citizens?
I don't think that's what I said. I said I want what I want is a more thorough identification policy. How that policy will look at the end of the day is unknown, but I want to open up discussion with our city attorney and our police chief on that.
How is it possible that what's happening in Arizona and your campaign for an assembly seat has nothing to do with today's press conference?
I wanted to bring this forward a long time ago.
Why now?
Because I've been putting it off too long, and it's a matter of time. It needs to be addressed. To me, it's no different than in addressing any other important issues in our community, whether they're water issues, infrastructure that's breaking down, traffic problems. We should not be afraid to address these issues. I want to take them on. I want to take on the issues.
What's caused you to put it off?
There have been a lot of things going on in the city, and so the timing was not, but let me put it this way. There have been a lot of things that have been important that have been going on in the city, and there aren't a lot of important things that are going on right now. But I could not put it off forever. I wanted to bring it forward and just decided to go for it.
Was it maybe because of the lawsuit?
Well, that certainly is, certainly took up a lot of our time, took up a lot of my time. There's no doubt.
I mean, legally, was it just wiser to wait until that was resolved before you could put forth, a deeper discussion of more issues?
I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to address the legal aspects, but certainly from a time perspective, I certainly was busy with the lawsuit. That is one thing I was busy with.
What timeline are you looking at in terms of, dedicating staff time to this? I mean, obviously there's the fairgrounds issues, which
Sure.
kind of stuff in the city, so how much would be expended in the next few months when you guys are, negotiating with the state,
Right.
fairgrounds and all that stuff?
That's a good question. I don't have a set amount. It's going to be reasonable. It will be up to the council also. The initial stages could be very basic framework, maybe identify some of the things that are a little easier to address at the beginning. Some of these things are going to be a little more long-term, will take staff more time, and that's understandable. I'm trying to put this forward in a reasonable manner to